Democrat in this year's set of elections who was thought to be incumbent Democrat in any real trouble. So we'll be continuing to watch that state with some care. Let me get back with our panel here to this question of whether this is a realignment election, whether this country, which has been regarded as a center-right country for so long, has now become, as Nina suggested, may have a center-left country. Fred, your thoughts?
I don't think so at all. I think the country, we have a center-right country. Now, we can be more right than center, and I think it's moved a little to the center from the right. But we're definitely going to have a center-left Washington. I think this will be the first time that Democrats will control the White House, assuming Obama wins, and it looks like it, and both houses of Congress since, 1994. And there's a difference between this era now and earlier eras when Jimmy Carter was president or when Bill Clinton was president in 93, 94, with the Democratic majorities, particularly in the House and Senate. There are practically no Democratic moderates or conservatives left. They are these majorities that Democrats have are dominated by liberals pushing a very liberal agenda. And it's Barack Obama who said, well, I'm going to bring the country together. I'm going to be bipartisan. Well, it's going to be up to him to do that, because the Democrats in the House and the Senate have shown no inclination to be bipartisan whatsoever. As Juan said, Juan seemed to think it's up to Mitch McConnell as the leader of the Republicans to make compromises. I don't think he's even going to be called on. I think Democrats are going to try to ram through their liberal agenda, and particularly the parts that don't require tax hikes or spending. And there's a lot there. There's the Fairness Doctrine to shut down conservative talk radio, the Freedom of Choice Act that would eliminate all restrictions on abortions. There's the stuff for various interest groups like labor, card check, which would mean you wouldn't have to have secret ballot elections and recognizing unions and so on. Yeah, in union representation, and on and on and on. It's that agenda that they're interested in that Barack Obama has endorsed as well.
Well, is there any reason, Bill Kristol, if that it would be dangerous, politically dangerous, for the Democrats to push through an agenda like that under this head of steam that they're going to have coming out of this election?
Sure, but in this terrific Democratic election, here's how voters identified themselves. Moderate, 44%, conservative, 34%, liberal, 22%. More moderates than anything else. A little erosion, as I recall, from 2004 of conservatives, 22% liberal. Barack Obama is a very smart guy. David Axelrod, his top political advisor, is a smart guy. They know these numbers. And here's where I sort of disagree with Fred. This is speculative. Obama will try very hard not to push through a strictly liberal agenda. He knows he has a liberal moderate coalition. He would even like to do a couple things that might make conservatives happy. And I think we'll see him in the next week or two in some of his cabinet appointments and announcements, which I think will come pretty soon, try very hard to at least begin by not going too far left.
Which suggests, Juan, that the image that we have of Barack Obama arising, and I think, perhaps reasonably arising out of his past associations, his past career, where he has seemed to be pretty far to the left, is not the true Obama, and perhaps the ultra-liberal Obama or the totally liberal Obama of this campaign may not be the real Obama. Your thoughts?
I don't think that he's ever been the ultra-liberal Obama, except if you want to interpret his opposition to the war very early on as evidence of liberalism. But I think most of the country, I think two-thirds of the country was opposed to the war, so I don't think that would be the basis. In fact, I think what Obama is a stealth candidate. And people have had to become comfortable with the idea that he is presidential and commanding, but we don't really know his positions on so many issues. We don't know his position as we sit here tonight on that key union issue. And you would think, oh, yeah, that would have been apparent right from the start. We know what the unions are pushing, but we don't know that Obama necessarily agrees with that. So what interested me, though, is looking at a number of these things that come out of the exit polls. And you look at Pennsylvania, which was a key battleground, and you look at things like values. If you say, who shares my values, 34%, by the way, total of the voters, McCain wins among those voters. If you say the war on terror is your principal concern, McCain wins among those voters. If you say who has the right experience to be president, again, in the state of Pennsylvania, which was carried when we called it for Barack Obama, John McCain wins. So you're right. I don't think that it's necessarily the case that we've shifted from a center-right country to somehow a center-left. I think what you see is, again, looking through this data, you see an overwhelming discontent with things like the war, the economy, and President Bush.
So this is a protest election, really, in a sense.
I think it's a strong reaction to President Bush. By the way, I just wanted to mention, John McCain, I thought, fought valiantly these last few days. And in Pennsylvania, if you were saying that, you know, it's about 6% of the voters who decided in the last day how they were going to vote, they split. 5% decided in the last 3 days, and they went for McCain 52-47. So what you see is that John McCain actually did pretty well in these last 3 days with the push that he made. And in general, when we look at the general election results, what you're seeing here again is, you know, whites overwhelmingly, whites still went for John McCain. It's the influx of blacks, Latinos. They went heavily for Barack Obama.
Fred.
I'd like to respectfully correct Juan on one thing. We do know where Barack Obama stands on card check. Yes. He's voted on it. He's endorsed it. He voted. There was a filibuster where Republicans blocked it. He voted to shut down that filibuster. He didn't want to shut it down so he could vote against card check. Card check, of course, is what would eliminate, in effect, secret ballot elections in union organizing.
Has he said that, though? I don't think he said what he'd do as president, Fred. I think that's a different position.
Wait a minute, Juan. He's voted that way as senator.
I agree, but
he said so as a candidate that he endorsed it. Look, the National Journal, which is a non-ideological, nonpartisan publication, lists him last year as the most liberal senator out of 100. He was the 4th most partisan. Now, that's his record. Maybe he'll be different as president, but what do we look at? What he says or what he's done? The record means a lot.
I think the record does mean a lot. I just think that given what he's going to have to try to do to guide this country, he's got to go to the middle. And I think that's what we saw on things like national security, his vote there in terms of whether or not we should hold telephone companies responsible retroactively. He's changed, you know what?
He played that both ways.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's the guy that we just, you know, that's about to become president of the United States, given what happened in Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Nina?
He is going to support card check, I think. And I think there's hope.